Alright, what's going on, gamers? Welcome back. You know the drill, back for another video. Just talking about a little bit of an event preview. We've got yet another S tier event up on the calendar. It's a very busy end to the year as well, so there's going to be quite a few of these rolling out, I guess, over the space of the next sort of 2 months-ish, until we start getting towards major preparations. But we're going to be talking about Fissure Playground. So we'll get in towards all of the action. There's quite a lot to talk about as well with this tournament, so without further ado, we'll sort of just jump straight into it, of course. This is sort of how it's running. September 12th to the 21st as well. $1.25 million prize pool as well. And we've got some of the best teams in the world playing as well. Mongols, of course, number 3 ranked in VRS, G2, coming off the back of Blast London. You got Aurora, Furia, Falcons, FaZe, 3D Max Payne, Astralis, Tyloo, Gamer Legion, Liquid, Heroic, Limvision, Virtus Pro, and Legacy to round it all out. But as you can see, it's the majority of the big hitters, bar, you know, I guess like the big two, Vitality, Spirit, of course, aren't here, but for the most part, you've got plenty of the kind of the biggest names in Counter-Strike right now, right? The real bulk of kind of the top 20 at the very least are here. This is a massively important tournament as well as we get towards the end of the year. There's teams that are really vying towards getting in towards kind of stage 3 of the major, for example. Making a deep run in the tournament like this really does go a hell of a long way. So this is quite an important time as a whole, in terms of as we're towards the end of the year, because everybody's gearing up for the major as well. It's all about getting the right reps in, getting the right players kind of settled in the position, especially if we're talking about Astralis, for example. Of course, Magic is back in the fray, so that becomes kind of exciting. We're looking for Falcons to get to the form that we're expecting of them. I think it's probably the right way to put it. You know, this is a side that is meant to be this sort of dream team in a way, but we haven't seen those performances come through yet. And, you know, despite them obviously, you know, losing Monacy and Nico, G2 have then gone on to now win a trophy under their belt, something that Falcons are yet to do. So it's an exciting time as a whole, right? You know, you've got FaZe who are trying to integrate Jacob, I think still properly in towards their team. You've got 3D Max, who I think actually might be a little bit of an overlooked team in this tournament. 3D Max have implemented a whole new system in their side, right? They've got Exorcist, the youngster. Sorry, not Exorcist. Gravity, may I say, the youngster, now calling. It becomes kind of exciting for this side because you've got the wealth of experience with individuals like Exorcist, Lucky, Macabody, all who have been sort of legends of the French scene. You've got the youngster, Gravity, who's now taken up the reins in terms of the IGL. You've got the new coach of who's only been in the team for like a month and a half. So it's a new system, it's a new caller. And since they've been playing, 3D Max have been looking really exciting. I was doing a Perfect World tournament out in China not even that long ago. 3D Max won it and looked excellent in doing so. So times are kind of exciting, I think, for 3D Max. It definitely could be a bit of a sleeper team to make a deep run here. And a deep run further cements them in terms of their spot. They're already in that top 10 and 9th ranked overall, right? So they're really on that precipice. So this is quite an exciting tournament. Like we said, first place, $200,000. But it also is that club share as well, which can go a hell of a long way. Even if you finish dead last, you still get a little bit of cash. It's not loads, but you're getting a little bit on top. And this is sort of how it's working. Group stage, it's very similar, actually very akin to what we see in the major, right? With these sort of 3-0 going all the way through, 3-1, 3-2, and the vice versa as well. But things are actually quite exciting. You're looking at really spicy games out the gate. I think that Mongols 3D Max one can go a hell of a long way. You're looking at Aurora versus Astralis. That one, especially if Magic can implement himself in towards this team, could be quite exciting in its own regard as well. FaZe, I still want to see the side go a little further. I think even though it's probably going to be a little bit of an overlooked match, that Gamer Legion Tyloo one could be quite interesting. Tyloo are still trying to really cement themselves alongside the big hitters, and Gamer Legion are trying to reclaim some form, which they haven't seemed to have found with Kersey in this side. So there's a few really good games out the gate, and, you know, similar to how the major works in this sort of system, you then play, you know, the winners play the winners, losers play the losers. So it's quite cutthroat in a sense as well. There's no room for that much error, and there's a few teams that we've definitely got to keep an eye on for. We're looking at Virtus Pro, of course. They're playing with this new academy guy, Toro, who's come through. I'm not super convinced about Toro. I feel like as well, especially with Flammer sitting on the bench, it actually feels like a wasted opportunity to bring him back in under Perfecto's calling. And it's a big opportunity to prove what this guy can actually do, if we're being honest. You've got teams like Liquid who are rapidly dropping down the rankings and have been looking pretty awful, if we're being honest. They have these flash moments here and there, but we're not seeing it consistently. Pain have started to drop away from being real Dark Horse contenders to just sort of on that precipice of being up there with the hitters. But then you've got other teams who are still trying to vie for that top end position. I think Aurora and Fury are really good examples. Aurora did look really good, of course, as we saw at EWC, for example. But at the same time, they're so inconsistent. Like, tournaments for them are so thick and thick and few in terms of when we see really, really good showing. So I'm a little worried as a whole for some of these teams. For Fury on the same side, they're really on this upward trajectory. Nothing seems to be going wrong at the moment. Sure, we're not at that spot, I think, where we can call them title contenders, but they're making deep runs, and that's much better than Fury were doing for like the last year and a half, if we're being completely honest, right? This is a side that were, if they made playoffs, it was like, oh, okay, they're here in playoffs, but any sort of a run felt next to non-existent. So kind of exciting there. Falcons, this feels like a decent opportunity for them to pick up a trophy, if we're being honest. You're looking at the teams that are the real contenders around them, Mongols, G2, maybe Aurora at a bit of a push, but Mongols, G2 have got to be the two main ones that I consider contenders around them. Falcons should, on paper, be able to beat these sides. So it does become kind of spicy in its own regard of, can this Falcons side overcome what it feels like to be a real kind of mental block for them? They've got the individuals. Kaisuke is looking excellent out the gates. There's no issues about that. Sure, Nico's form maybe taking a bit of a dip, but he's still doing well. Monacy still doing well. Maybe not world beater well, but it's hard when you've got so many stars in this side to really shine. It's easier, of course, to shine on a bad side, right? As we've seen with quite a variety of players in the kind of the middle of the pack, so to say. So times are kind of interesting as this tournament progresses, especially because, even what was worth doing, take a look at the calendar for the rest of the year. There's not loads going around, right? We've got Fissure Playground, we've got Star Series, but these actually overlap, these two tournaments. So all the teams that are here at Fissure won't be playing in Star Series. That's why we've got teams like Na'Vi, for example, who are playing Star Series. Then we got Pro League, right? And then it starts to thin out quite quickly. You got CAC, which is going to have quite a few of the big hitters flying out to China for that. You got Thunderpick in Malta, same time as well. They both overlap those two. Bucharest, IM Chengdu, Blast Rivals at the end, and then we're into Major. So we're talking single-digit amount of tournaments, which can have a massive effect on the tail end of this year. So as a whole, becomes kind of interesting. But I think it's worth probably for me making predictions, as I always do. My 3-0s. The thing with the 3-0s, it becomes really difficult. I haven't used, there's like the majors.im website that you can use to sort of predict who's going to play off against who, and that's how you can work out what the 3-0s are. I haven't got a coin on the line here, so I'm not doing any of that stuff, and I never did it even with the majors anyway. But if I'm going gut feeling, my 3-0s, I'm probably going to go Mongols and Falcons. As much as G2, of course, have just won Blast London, I still think they're fallible to a loss here and there, right? I don't think they're unbeatable just yet. I think they can even pick up losses against sides that are considered worse than them overall. Falcons, Mongols feel like they're sort of set for me. The 0-3s, I think as much as it's so obvious to say, I think I should probably just go VP Legacy here. I don't know what Perfector's going to be like in terms of the calling department. Toro, I don't really trust, but I will say I've seen really nice moments from him. I've cast him a few times this year, and he actually looks pretty clean. So I don't think he's going to be like a fish out of water, but can he hack it this top level? That's a different kettle of fish as a whole. And Legacy have looked unconvincing, to say the least, for a while, right? This is a side that mid is probably the best way to put them. Lato and Dumao, of course, are the two names you generally look towards in this side. And they do have these really flashy pop-off moments. But I don't know if I trust this side. Lux, of course, who came from Pain previously. He looked pretty good on Pain. He's been okay on Legacy. So I'm not super convinced as things go. But there's a few other teams that could be considered sort of sleeper 0-3 teams, right? Liquid, they've been unconvincing to say the least. Ultimate's not cracking it in terms of the AWPA. We're still looking at kind of get Shuhei comfortably back to calling. Nafs look better. That's for damn sure in the second season. But is he still back to his best? No. I think it's ultimately where we're at. I think they probably are a side that, in the same vein, you can talk about them potentially going 1-3 or 2-3. They could also very easily go 3-1 or 3-2. That's where Liquid are at. They've got the individuals. They just don't have the form or the repertoire to prove it, in a sense. So that does worry me a little bit. Astral is also a team that's worth kind of worrying about, quote-unquote. Nose down. Magic's now back in the team. Magic looked great at the tail end before he got benched, right? But there's been a bit of time on the bench now as well. He hasn't got the reps under his belt. How seamlessly is he going to be able to transition in towards this side? I think for the most part, he'll be fine. I think Hooksy has a really good kind of, I guess, history when it comes to integrating players. And it's not exactly like he's integrating some new guy. He's integrating one of the most legendary players we've ever seen in the game, right? A real veteran of the scene. So I sort of have the faith there a little bit. Lin Vision are also a little bit weird. They're so up and down. Sometimes Westmoreland's calling is incredible. Other times it's really, really flat. Starry can be lights out, can be terrible. The real worry is probably Call Me Sue. Call Me Sue sometimes can look incredible, right? But he also goes completely missing. Single-digit kills, kind of like a 0.5 rating. So he's one of those players that it does worry me. It feels like they've relied so heavily off Zaka, right? Because he is the main port of firepower for this side. But sometimes if he goes a little flat, they struggle to really put the numbers up. And as much as Amelia's funny, he's not going to be able to replicate the numbers of a missing Zaka or a missing Starry at times. And that does concern me a little bit. So I think they could be in a bit of trouble here. And as much as they're towards the topper end of the rating, Pain also worry me a little bit too. They're so hit and miss this side. Sometimes DGT is one of the best players in servers, or Snow is really feeling it. NQZ is hitting every shot that's put in front of him. But at other times as well, it looks like the calling for Big Azera can go a little flat. As much as he is sort of touted as his best IGL in the region, it can be a little rough to watch at times. So that worries me. But I think as a whole, we've got what? In total, 8 teams that are making it through. So I'm going to pick my 8. The 3-0s, I'll probably go Mongols, Falcons, like I mentioned. The teams to make it around them, I think we've got 6 to go through. I think G2, Aurora, Furia are the easy 3 here. I think then FaZe, 3D Max, and I'm probably going to throw a little bit maybe of a curveball in here. I guess, I don't know if this counts as a curveball, but I'm going to go Tyloo as my other 6 to make it through. So Mongols, G2, Aurora, Furia, Falcons, FaZe, 3D Max. And then, of course, Tyloo, may I say, to round it all out. I don't have the faith in Pain. I don't have the faith in Astralis just yet. Game Legion, my heart wants to put them in, but I don't feel like I believe in it right now. So, I don't know. And then same with like a Liquid and Heroic. Heroic are now integrating Alcaron. Obviously, it's going to be a big miss for them not having Tanier anymore. I think that's such a heavy hit in terms of, I guess, the individual firepower. And it'd be exciting times when we get to see him on Spirit, right? Really kind of unleashed a little bit. But that's the teams I am going to go with. VP, not convinced by them by any means, but nobody has been for like a year and a half. So I don't think that surprises anybody. As you always do, we'll round out a little bit of fantasy as well. This is the team I'm going for. Sampaius on the AWP. Now, Sampaius, when he came in towards G2, looked really uncomfortable. Wasn't a fan of what I've seen. Really off his game. We kind of felt like we haven't seen Sampaius play really, really well since his time on Falcons. But now, I loved what I saw at Blast London. He looks so confident, hitting the easy shots, which sometimes he kind of struggles with, right? But also got these flashy moments in the locker as well. So good in terms of his supporting util. A fantastic player to watch. And I think for me, having a primary AWPer to pick into, I like him. Especially, you know, when you look at like Monacy, I think he's a little bit too expensive for me. So, yeah, some bias for me. I'm confident of what I saw from him. And of course, I've got his teammate Hunter as well being brought to the table. I think G2 look really good at the moment. Now, we've already seen what happens. G2 can win a tournament and just fall straight off. We saw it happen a little bit of IM Dallas, of course, when they won with Stewie. Sure, that was a standing situation. This isn't, but they're not always the most convincing in terms of consistency. But I like what I saw at London. They were fun to watch. I think they played a really nice brand of Counter-Strike. A lot of depth in terms of the map pool as well. So I'm going to go pretty heavy on G2. Will they win this thing? I think it'd be surprising if they went back-to-back, let's put it that way, but I think they can make a deep run. Top 4, I don't think, is unachievable by any means for this sort of side. I really like what I see. I think Matties and Heavy God in particular, look incredible. I've been a bit of a doubter of Matties, but I think he looked really good at Blossom, especially in that final, really picking up a lot of slack. So, big fan. I think Hunter is just relentless in terms of he's got to be one of the better fragging IGLs we've got around at the moment. His calling looks so in depth. Some of the calls he made on Inferno and that big comeback they had were incredible, but also I think that he brings the numbers with it too. So, for me, I'm kind of high on the G2 stock. I'm then going to go Nico. I know he's not been fantastic. I know he's not been to the world beater, best of all time rifler sort of vibe, but you still got it in the locker. And I think Falcons have obviously had Blast off and they've had plenty of time to really cement themselves in terms of a system. If this falls flat and this tail end of the year falls flat, a lot of questions have got to be asked about Falcons. But it's hard not to believe in these individuals when we know what these individuals can bring. We know what the skill ceiling is like for them as well. Exorcist, this may seem like a bit of a rogue one as well, but like I mentioned, I did that Perfect World Tournament. He looked incredible, like so solid, so confident, so smart, but he's not also the guy who's always pulling all the strings in terms of he's not the main guy bringing the numbers. He's not normally the main guy in terms of setting up rounds, but I really like what I saw from him. So hopefully that was on LAN as well in China. So hopefully he can bring a bit of that form as well. And then PR's a beast. He's so talented. I mean, it was obviously a fantastic pickup by Ash. And despite maybe me not believing in Game Allegiance to go the distance, I believe in PR to put up good numbers. So as a whole, this is where I am leaning for this one. That's the roles I'm going for. I've sort of just gone off the back of percentages. Like I said, I'm not really the best in terms of the fantasy sort of thing, so you don't have to really agree or copy what I'm doing, but this is sort of just what I'm really going for. But as a whole, that is the event overview for Fissure. I'm looking forward to seeing how this one pans out. Let me know what you guys are thinking, and until next time, I'll see you soon. Take care.